You're listening to A Splash More, where we have honest conversations with women who refuse to shrink and aren't afraid to want more. So grab your glass. It's time for A Splash More. I'm so excited to have you on. I'm here with Uma Naralkar, and we came across each other just through social media. And I think that's a lot of ways that I'm like sort of finding the right guests and telling the right stories, because I think it's important to use real women and to have real conversations. And this conversation is particularly important to me. I've covered it a little bit in different capacities. So I did a little mini series with Dr. Ruhi Jailani, who is amazing. She has a fertility clinic, which is also a women's health clinic that she just opened. She's super smart and has a ton of amazing things to say. So we sort of touched on more of the fertility side or the infertility side. But of course, she has a ton of expertise on what we're here to talk about, which is perimenopause and just like taking care of yourself in your 40s. So she has a lot, I'm sure, to share on the clinical side, so I won't press you too much on that. But with you, I know that you have a lot of, you've built a lot of your business and a lot of your following and your expertise on this topic, but in like the more wellness, fitness, mental health, nutritional stage. And I think, you know, when you're in your 30s, I wish I knew what I know now, so that I could have been more like prepared mentally and physically to take on this sort of change in this topic in my life in my 40s. So I think it could, you know, really resonate with mid to late 30-year-olds who are sort of in this stage of being done having children, but also, you know, women who are already in it and starting to navigate it like I am. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself and give us a little more information on your background and all that fun stuff. And then we'll get into like all these fun questions and topics that we already sort of talked about earlier.
Okay, well, first off, thank you for having me here and finding me on Instagram.
Yeah.
I've actually met some friends, we're now close friends through Instagram, and it's amazing how we can now, you know, connect.
Yes, I love that.
And I'm happy to be here at your studio.
Thank you.
And I love this topic. I really do, because I am 45 and I am myself navigating all this while I am obviously working with clients and supporting them. So I am right there with you, even if, you know, my story is very different.
Yeah.
And so, let me just give you a little intro. Perimenopause is the years leading up to menopause, right? And theoretically, that could begin as early as 35.
Right.
So a woman could potentially have perimenopause symptoms for over 10 years before they actually are in menopause.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that you have the full array of symptoms, right?
No.
But there's such a wide range. And there could be anything from, you know, I'm putting on a little weight on my abdominal section, or I feel so tired. I feel like this energy dip in the middle of the day. There's sleep issues. Those are actually very common earlier on. Like you start seeing changes in your sleep. Or there's anxiety or, you know, mood changes that can happen.
You're going through and like check.
Right? Like,
yeah.
And it could be not all of them. It could be some of them. And then as you enter into full-blown perimenopause, which is 2-3 years before menopause, you might be more symptomatic. But it starts early on, and it was always this whole idea that you're left to figure it out.
Or just like suffer through it.
Suffer through it till you basically are eligible for help.
Right.
Because there was nothing FDA approved, and there was this whole hush-hush about using HRT or any kind of other support. So that's one aspect of it. The other thing is just foundational things, right? So even before talking about hormones or peptides or red light therapy or, you know, everything else that we can do, the cold plunges, the sauna, even before all of that, there's some key and basic things which are not even like expensive that every woman, whether, you know, you're someone who is 35 or someone who's 45 or 55, should be doing so that you have a solid foundation to begin with.
I call it the 40-year-old starter pack. And I know that
I heard
it's
you
for,
say that.
for people
I
before
love
that.
that.
I was making a joke because, I'm going through, this was right after I had my daughter and I knew I was done having babies. And I'm like, okay, now it's time. Like I need to really, I've always been healthy. I've always worked out. I worked out during both of my pregnancies. I'm a healthy eater. I walk a lot. I drink a lot of water, all of the things. But being like fit physically does not come naturally to me. It's just not something, it's not my body makeup. It's not my genes. So I have to work really hard at it. And I knew that this was going to be harder, but I didn't know how hard it was going to be because now, I'm in my 40s. And so with my son, I was newly in my 40s and it was hard, but it was not impossible.
Mm-hmm.
After like 6 months of doing this, I'm like, this is impossible. Like I'm working so hard. I'm doing all the things. So I started to look into what I call the 40-year-old starter pack.
I love that.
I'm like,
yeah.
You get the weighted vest so that your walks are a little more, you get more bang for your buck, I guess. I know that I have to start lifting weights. I know you need to drink or eat more protein. I know that you have to, get more sleep, keep your cortisol levels down. Like, when I say the 40-year-old starter pack, that's sort of what I'm saying, like the creatine, and now we can add HRT therapy into it. And, I want to let you continue, but one thing I want to touch on is what it was making me feel like going into this first, feeling like it was impossible. I'm like, there's absolutely no way.
That's exactly right, yes.
There's no way. Yeah, it's overwhelming. It felt like a lot. I was like, there's absolutely no way that this is ever going to change. And I just have to accept that this is my new body and that this is my new mental health, or this is my new like way of being, like irritated and all of the things. And, when I stopped feeling like it was impossible, it was a choice. I had to decide, okay, this isn't going to be impossible. I'm not going to be like, generations before, I'm assuming this is how they felt, but they didn't have the resources. I'm not going to suffer through it. I'm going to like really actively seek out information and ways to support myself. So that's sort of like where I'm at. And I don't mean to word vomit on you, but I think it's important because I think a lot of people probably feel how I feel. So I'm going to pause there and let you sort of jump back in.
That was great. Mm-hmm. And thank you for sharing that, because you literally are that woman.
Yeah.
And everyone else is feeling exactly the same.
Yeah.
And look, it's a lot. It's a lot. Like if you go on social media, if you go in a room full of women, that's all you hear, right?
Yes.
When are you getting your red light therapy? Did you do your hot sauna? Where's your weighted vest? And
yeah.
like,
are you
how many steps did you get today?
Are you drinking creatine? Are you having
protein? Like what about the 150 grams? Like if you don't get it, you're
especially
gonna lose
for
your
someone
bat.
who doesn't eat meat, that's really challenging.
That's even more challenging. Yeah. But it can be a lot. And what I tell people is, and also it can be a lot physically, in the sense that how am I going to squeeze all this in my day while I'm a mother, while I have a job, while I have other things going on.
Yeah.
It is mentally stressful because you're constantly trying to check boxes, right? And it's financially stressful because not all of this stuff is cheap.
No, it's not.
If you start going down the rabbit hole,
it is, exactly.
It can be expensive. Like how many are you going to get, like $3,000 worth of supplements every month? Like,
yes.
So in every sense, it can be very stressful. And
I want to just add one thing too. It can also come with like weird shame.
Oh
like,
my God,
it's
totally.
like a really weird shame.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing enough.
Yeah, I'm not doing enough. And also like it's embarrassing to be going in this stage of your life. And that's what this whole, platform is about, is really supporting women through their life and in their different journeys and feeling like less alone, less like small. Like why is the world telling us that our periods or like going through perimenopause or going through menopause is like a secret, and it's not something we should share, or it's something you should be embarrassed if you're going through because it means you're getting older. And why is getting older a shameful thing anyways, So I think there's so much wrapped up in this one little topic that should be such a natural thing that we talk about. Like when you get older, men go get their prostate checked, or I don't even know what they do anymore. But like, these are just things that happen. You start getting older, you have to start taking care of yourself in a different way. But I do feel like women's health comes with some level of like secrecy that it shouldn't.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
shouldn't.
because it's never been talked about.
Yeah.
And just because we've been talking about more for the
Right.
past 2 years,
Right.
it's not so easy to just unravel, right?
No.
Because it's like you've heard from your mom and your grandmother, and like, it's always been like, just deal with it.
Yes.
But coming back to the foundation.
Yes,
right?
please.
Because the thing is that this is important because it's universal.
Yes.
And it's not about how old you are or whether you've had kids or not, whether you're in menopause or not yet. Yes, it becomes more and more important as you start navigating your, that perimenopausal phase. But everyone should do this, right? So I feel that your optimal health, okay, when you are feeling your best, looking your best, and it all ties in, right? Basically, it sits on a tripod, right? So a tripod has 3 legs to it. If you think about it, your health is sitting on it.
Yeah.
And one tripod is nutrition. It's like what you're eating, what you're feeding yourself, right? The second is movement or physical activity. This is not like how many times you're going to the gym, but how active your lifestyle is in general. And the third is your mental health. Right? And that includes your mindset, your stress levels, sleep even ties into it. Right? So if you think about this tripod, and then if you think about one of those legs just going a little, wonkadoodle or just like falling off, the whole tripod is now going to collapse. Correct? So it's very important to think about this holistically. You cannot just be like, I'm having all the protein I need to do all day, so my problem's going to be fixed. Because if you are really under a lot of stress and if you're not sleeping well, it's going to kick in some other hormones and other pathways, which you can't control what you want to eat, right? Then, or your glucose metabolism is going to be affected by it.
Right.
So you have to think about your body, your health as holistic, and you're treating yourself in all these different ways so that you can feel your best. Now, does that mean that you need to subscribe to each and everything that's thrown at you? Not necessarily. What I would recommend is, what did you call it? The starter pack, right?
The 40-year-old starter pack.
I call it the toolkit.
Okay.
So I'm like, think about it as you have a toolbox.
Yeah.
You have all these different tools in it, right? Now, you don't need to use each tool every single day. You don't. You need to really tap in and think about how much time do you have, because it really comes down to sustainability, right? Are you going to be actually able to do this every day consistently? Do you actually see some change? So how much time do you have? What are your key pain points right now that you really need to pay attention to?
Yep.
And then once you figure that out, choose 1 or 2 things that are fun, because then they'll be sustainable, and something that you'll stick to. Make them habitual. And then once you're like totally comfortable with that stuff, then think of adding one more thing and then maybe another thing. You can always, start staggering on top of that. And the main things I would think about in each of those categories, with nutrition, for example, yes, protein is actually very important, right? Now, does it mean that you need 1 gram of protein per ideal body weight in grams, which is like basically if you aim to be 130 pounds, then you need 130 grams of protein in a 24-hour period, which is a lot of protein. And yes, can you do it? Totally. But one day, if you have only 100 grams or 90 grams, is that going to completely change your body composition and you're going to get Alzheimer's? No.
Right.
So yes, it's good to have a goal. It's good to have a plan, because you really need to know where that protein is coming from so that you stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
But if you miss that goal, it's not going to change anything as long as you're generally staying consistent, right? So paying attention to protein is important, I feel, in the nutrition category. Paying attention to your gut health, your gut microbiome, because it genuinely, it directly impacts your hormones. It impacts multiple pathways. So if you don't have a healthy gut microbiome, you are going to feel symptomatic in every other, you're going to feel more brain fog, you're going to feel hormonally off, you're going to feel more tired. So I think those 2 are really important as far as the nutrition leg
So
goes.
Can I ask you a question
Yes.
on each leg as we go through it? Okay.
Please do.
So from a protein standpoint, totally hear what you're saying. And you're like, okay, if you can't do this every day, all day, like it's okay as long as your general nutritional habits are founded in the amount of protein that you're supposed to be having to reach whatever goal weight you aim to please.
You need
Like
to be aware,
you
number
need to be
one,
aware.
of what your goal is and how much you need.
So like how many days a week? If you're like, okay, if I need to eat 120 grams of protein, that's not to say I want to be 120 pounds, to be clear. But if I want to eat 120 grams of protein, what if like 4 days a week I'm doing that perfectly, and
Great.
then the rest of the week it's whatever
You
because
may
I'm
not
just
be. Yeah. And that there might be a day when you are at a Brazilian barbecue and you've had
yeah
140 grams of protein.
yeah
Right?
mm-hmm.
So, but you are aware though. You know what your goal weight is. You know the amount of grams of protein you need. But more importantly, you know how you're getting that, right? So you're not winging it. You know that a steak is generally like 45 grams of protein.
Right.
You know that your morning smoothie has 25 grams of protein.
Right.
You may not want to have like a big snack and you're going to use liquid amino acids to compensate for like 15 grams. Maybe you love roasted chickpeas and you're going to have them in the car while picking up your kid. Maybe you have your favorite protein bar, which is 15 grams. You know the math, and you generally have your macros, which are your big nutrients, right? Your proteins, carbohydrates, and your fats.
Yeah.
You have them figured out. You know them at the back of your mind. Then you want to play with them.
Yeah, I think what you're saying and what I think is most helpful that I'm working through right now is like, okay, if I come up with three breakfasts, 3 lunches, 3 dinners,
Yes,
and like 8 snacks that I know the exact
Perfect.
math of for all of them, and then I can interchange those 4 days a week.
Absolutely.
Like
yes.
at least 4 days a week, I am clear that I am eating the right amount of, and that's not to say, because, people say like meal prep, sometimes it's just too hard. And I just don't have the mental capacity for it or the desire. So like knowing what those 3, 6, whatever meals are and knowing what those snacks are, just having them like written out and just being like, okay, I'm going to choose this one. It's like a choose your own adventure every single day. You just pick one
but mine
of every.
is the pressure of having to meet that goal every single day.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And knowing that, we've all lived in caves and hunted and gathered. Like, I don't think all of them are like, oh, shoot. Missed 20 grams,
right?
Like, let's kill another deer. Like,
right.
No, so your body's like used to it, and your body has survived it through all these years, right? And so it's going to be okay. There's awareness, and then there's a plan, and then with that you create this amazing room to play, and then you're supporting yourself without that stress,
right?
Which is important.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, my husband's obviously a guy, so it's a little different, but we're very different in other ways in the sense of like how we approach this stuff. He's like an all or nothing kind of person. He is not great at like moderation and all that kind of stuff, he would tell you. But when he's like committed, he's like every single day, all day, like no breaking, all of the things. Whereas I know if I do that, I'm going to set myself up to lose. It's not going to last long. It might last 1 week or 2 weeks. And it's not because I don't like seeing like results and all that stuff. It just is too much. Like my brain is so many things. Like I'm thinking about so many things, and there's only so much capacity I have to continue thinking like that and like being so rigid. So if I know going into something, I can be rigid and commit to it 3 or 4 days a week, like strictly, and then the rest of the week I can sort of like have an awareness of what I'm eating and the protein that I'm taking in, or what other macros, right, the carbs and the fats, but know that those other days of the week it's okay like to give myself some like grace to just sort of like,
and remove the strictly part of it completely. You don't need to do that.
No,
you are aware. That's what's important, because 9 out of 10 people are not. They're so worried because they just don't know what it means.
Right.
They'll eat something and they're like, oh, I ate all the salad and I ate like a piece of chicken. How much protein was that? And it becomes this really stressful thing all day, right? So if you remove that, you're fine. You're going to be good.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. And so that's really the like the first leg,
So the
right?
nutrition leg, there's two elements to it, which I think are the most important, which is the protein, because it really is your building block, and
Yeah.
then it's your gut health. And your gut health is supported by optimal fiber. You want to pay attention to eating probiotic rich food, like not popping probiotic pills, which you can, but really supporting your gut, right? With fermented foods like sauerkraut or kombucha, or having some yogurt if you can tolerate dairy, stuff like that. So because then
Like, how much of that do you need a day?
about 30 grams. It's not a lot.
Yeah.
So, like my kids love oranges right now. About 2 oranges in the morning is like 15 grams.
Got it.
Right? So you don't need a lot. You can even, if you really are calculating it, you could even do psyllium husk in your smoothies. Have you tried that?
No, I haven't. And
it's just fiber.
And so I want to go back because I'm going to ask the things that I know people that are like me will just be like, okay, wait, I didn't know 2 oranges. Is that like 2 big oranges? Is it 2 of the little like cuties?
No, the two, what are they called?
Like the cuties, little
the
mandarins.
Cuties. Yeah,
okay,
totally.
so if you eat 2 of those, that's like half of your
fiber. Because it has, you're not squeezing the juice out of the orange. You're actually eating the fiber.
Yes.
And oranges are very fibrous. So are most berries, by the way. So most berries have fiber in them, a lot of fiber in them. But for example, like I don't love eating fruit in the morning. And if I want to really just support myself with fiber, I'll make sure that I just put that 1 scoop of psyllium husk in my protein.
Yeah.
And so I have it because it is 100% fiber and it's so good for you.
Right.
So that's leg number 1. You don't want that to collapse.
Right.
And then the second one was movement.
Right.
And movement is tricky, right? Because people immediately think that they need to go to a gym and exercise, or they need to go to a Pilates class, or they have to go to yoga. Those are all great. They are all good forms of exercise, and I highly recommend them. I work out 5 days a week. I love it. I feel really good when I work out.
Yeah.
But I'm talking more about your lifestyle. Right? So are you choosing to take stairs instead of the elevator when you can?
Right.
Are you holding your grocery bags and walking a block? Are you physically lifting your kids up, playing with them? Right? Do you have a walking desk? Those kind of things. Your physical activity throughout the day. Can you go for a 10-minute walk after your meal?
Right.
Can you take a call on a walk? Those are key because they all add up, right? And they are all zone 2 cardio, actually. So they help with your cardiovascular health, but they're also helping with your mental health.
Yes.
They're helping with your circulation. They're helping with your lymphatic drainage, all of that. Now, adding strength training, why is it important? We all know, right? Like we're in our 40s, our hormones are not supporting our muscle.
Right.
And it's an uphill battle. And it's the same for all of us, for men and women. So we are not being able to hold on to our muscle, and it's harder to build muscle. So it's like lose-lose situation, right? So that protein that I talked about is key. The creatine is part of the nutrition umbrella, but lifting weights. And you brought up something earlier, which I tell all my clients, you don't have to lift heavy weights. You don't. Just lift weights. Heavy weights are important because they're going to increase your resistance, right? And you're going to be able to keep building that lean muscle. But if you are consistently doing moderate weights, it's going to also be equally as helpful. You do not have to lift 40 pounds to see change.
Yeah.
Lift what you can. Lift what's reasonably heavy for your fitness level, because people, again, that's another intimidating thing. It's like you go work out with a trainer and it's like you're doing squats with like 20 pounds on each side. That might be too much.
Yeah. And I think it's also, I've seen a couple of friends talking and posting and whatnot about their like lifting journey.
I've seen all those, but have you seen what is that exercise, the hip thrust? Have you seen those videos with like the 100 pounds?
Yes.
There's no need to do that.
And it's also, it just feels overwhelming. Like and then when I'm like, how long are you? They're there for like 2 hours or 3 hours. And I'm like, that does not sound fun to me at all. And I like to work out, but like, if I'm going to work out, I want to feel sweat. I want to feel the adrenaline. I don't get that from lifting, which I know that's just a little bit like a mindset shift.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I felt the same for years.
Yeah. And so lifting, I do, I lift probably 3 days a week, moderately. And it's not all focused on lifting weights. I go to Bunda usually twice a
Great.
week,
Yeah.
and I have a
Perfect.
personal trainer come to our house once a week. And it's a combination of cardio and lifting. But it doesn't feel like I'm doing enough. Like that doesn't feel like enough.
Because every time you open Instagram,
Yeah.
there's someone doing those hip thrusts on
Yeah.
the thing. And then they show their
She
butt.
canceled the hip thrust. No.
No, I'm just like, do it.
Yeah.
If you enjoy it, you do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But if you do it even without any weights, your butt is still going to get exercised, and do what you feel is upper limit for your fitness level. Because if you're someone who just started working out 2 years ago or something, and if someone's working out for like 15 years, it's not the same level. Or if someone's just started 2 days ago.
So like how much weightlifting is required in this 40-year-old starter pack? Like how much?
I'm gonna like, we have to like make
Yes.
something out of this. Like the 40-year starter pack series.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
Okay, so weightlifting, right?
Yeah.
Weightlifting can mean anything. So it can mean body weight.
Yeah.
So today, if I'm doing a squat, okay, without any weight, I'm just doing a body weight squat, I'm still lifting weights.
Yes.
It's not, I don't have to carry weights to show that, because
Right.
I'm using my own body weight.
Right.
If I lay in a plank, it still comes under the weightlifting umbrella. If I'm sitting on a machine at the gym and I'm doing curls,
Yep.
I'm still weightlifting.
Absolutely.
Or if I am holding dumbbells in my hand and I'm doing walking lunges, I'm
You're still
weightlifting.
yep.
Right? So all this comes under the umbrella of weightlifting / strength training. It doesn't mean that I say 4 to 5 times a week, but I'm not saying go to the gym and lift heavy weights 4 to 5 times a week. I'm saying challenge your body and make sure that you are doing something against resistance, whether that is your own body weight, or whether it's machines, or whether it's physically lifting weights.
Is it like 15 minutes enough? Is 20 minutes enough? Do 30 minutes?
15 minutes is enough if you do it correctly.
Yeah.
You can do it for up to an hour. I know friends who do it for an hour, but there's also a reason to it, because some of them are lifting heavier weights.
Yeah.
And when you are lifting heavier weights, you need a little more time in between sets.
Yeah.
Because it's really dangerous. If you just keep going at it, you can hurt yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing a set, and you're really, not even a set, you're doing a round,
Yes.
and then you're waiting to do your next to complete your set. So that's why it might take 60 minutes. But I also feel like I love cardio, right? I love running, I love walking. So I'll go to the gym, I'll do 15 minutes of weights, and then I'll do 30 minutes of cardio when I'm listening to a podcast or talking to someone, and then I'll do another 15 minutes of weights. And that's fine. It works for me.
Yeah.
You know, or I'll do 15 minutes of weights, and the last 15 minutes I will stretch.
Yeah.
And do foam roller and do some ab series.
Right.
So that's fine. And there's no pressure to be doing it for like an hour, 4 times a week, and lifting heavy weights.
So somebody might say, and please take this with all of the love and respect that I have, well, you're so thin and it looks like it probably comes fairly easily to you. And I know you and I have talked, and that you had a stage of your life where it was not as easy, but I don't want to make an assumption, but I'm assuming that you've never been.
I've been through all of it. You know how you said it's very hard for you to stay healthy?
Yes.
So I was an obese child.
Okay.
And it was very hard, because I really suffered, and I didn't have a lot of friends, and I was just uncomfortable. I didn't like any physical movement.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't like any group sports.
Going to gym class.
I grew up in India, so they tried. My parents were like, go dance. You know, we had Indian dances. I did it, but I never felt like it was fun. I never wanted to go. I was the kid who always tried to find excuses.
Yeah.
So when I was 13, when I was about to hit puberty, my mom's a physician, and she's like, come, let's go to the gym. I want to show you, they have this aerobics class. So that's when my fitness journey started. And those bench aerobic classes where you're jumping up and down, I started doing those, and I loved that. I loved the music, and I started losing, weight. And then there was a room, this is India back in 1998. So there's like one little room with like dumbbells where all the ladies are doing their gym, and that's how I started going to the gym. And I started feeling better because I started losing the weight. Also I was growing taller, so it was easier, right? When you're like a teenager. And then I lost weight and I became tall. And there was someone in our neighborhood who was like, "Have you ever thought of runway, like modeling?" And I was like, "No, but that sounds great. I'm doing
Yeah.
it." So I actually was a runway model
Oh, cool.
when I was in my teenage, and I was the other extreme where all we did was cardio. We ate salads. It was that, time to be like where everyone had like the diet
Yeah.
yogurts, like the
Yeah.
no fat, low fat stuff. And I was just skinny. And I did that for 2 years. And then I was in my next phase when I came to the United States and I was a student. I did my master's here, and I was on my own, away from school, away from home, and I was learning to cook and eat food that was very new to me. So I put on all the weight again. So I was again in this phase where it was hard. I wasn't obese, but I was heavier than I would have
Yeah.
liked to be. And then I was trying to conceive and I was on the heavier side, because of which it was harder.
Yeah.
So I have been through all these phases. And then I had my children. Obviously, through the pregnancies, my weight was up and down. Up until when I stopped my producing job and went back to nutrition school. That's when I started going back and unpeeling this stuff. And since then, you're right. I've always inherently had like a thin frame.
Yeah.
So no matter what I do, I'm never going to be, like wide or broad.
Right.
But what I pay attention to, and it's extremely important to me, which wasn't before, because all I cared about was, am I looking thin enough? Or am I looking, lean enough? Because I was modeling and then I was overweight because of my kids. So I wanted to not, I was
Yeah.
feeling uncomfortable.
Right.
But when I went to nutrition school, the biggest shift that happened, and it's very hard, was I started paying attention to what's going on inside, right? So I was constantly running labs, paying attention to where my blood sugar levels are at, or what my body composition is looking like, and how I'm feeling, really, how that translates to how I'm feeling, my inflammation markers. That time, I think hormones were not so important because I was still in my early 30s when I started learning about nutrition. But the big shift in my own health journey was just being graceful about the fact that, hey, it's not just about
Thin.
how you're looking and how thin you are, but it's about your body composition, how you're being able to hold your muscle, your glucose metabolism, because no matter how thin or overweight you are, if you're metabolically compromised, if your body doesn't know what to do with the excess glucose that you have floating around, sooner rather than later, actually, you're going to start seeing metabolic symptoms, right? And that could be early on type 2 diabetes, or that visceral fat gain, or dips in energy, and then you're crashing and then you're coming up for more sugar, stuff like that. So I think that is when my personal health journey evolved. And I'm so glad you asked me, because I don't think a lot of people know how much I struggled with like my weight and my confidence, because I feel like it's very easy to say that, you don't get it. You don't know how hard it is, because... But it really, really affected my confidence.
Yes.
And I was, especially as a kid.
Absolutely.
And it made me feel like I cannot make friends, and I was socially awkward because of it. And it really helped me to get out of my shell when I started looking healthier and feeling it, right? So thank you for asking me that.
No, of course. Thank you for sharing. And it's important because I feel like thinner women get a bad rap when they're talking about health and wellness, and not a bad rap. It's like someone who's not thin and not, the idea of what...
I get it. But we do that to women who are overweight
exactly,
too.
Exactly.
Or we do it to women who are too muscular.
Yes.
I mean,
we're just constantly judging.
We do it to everyone.
We do it to everybody. We're constantly judging women's bodies. But like, I want to be able to take like advice from you, and like I want our listeners to be able to take advice from you. And I can imagine in this particular like lane, that's a question that would come up. Well, or it makes people feel like defeated. Like, great, it's easy for her to say, but
No, I think the way my business started was because of those transformation photos
absolutely.
and things that I posted.
Yep.
And I think I went through that fat loss journey after having my second baby, and that's how it started. So I think people were very curious about that fat loss journey, and I think that helped.
That helped. It helped
Yeah.
like the people that were following you.
Yeah, to
And
just see that this is really, happening in real time.
yes.
But yeah, now that it's been 10, 15 years, I'm glad you brought it up, because I don't know if, people have recently gone back and seen that and or know that story, part of my
Absolutely.
story.
I didn't. And, we've been following each other for a little while.
Yeah.
So I did not know that. And I think it will definitely help. If someone's listening and they are in a position like me, I'm not saying that I'm obese or,
No.
hugely overweight or anything like that, but definitely not thin. And we've talked about it on a couple of episodes, just like what that can do to your mental health and your desire or ability to start something. And I
Yes.
think that's really what it comes down to is how do you just like take that first step into wanting to take care of yourself. And I've definitely found at this stage of my life, before it was easier because it was all about appearance, right? And I was single and I was, I didn't have
And you
all
didn't have
these,
two little
no, I didn't have
babies.
all these people to worry about. I could just worry about myself. So whenever I would go through a fluctuation and I was just over it, I'm like, okay, I need to take this seriously. And I'd wake up the next day and I would be super committed and, it would go great and I would lose the weight that I wanted to lose and look the way I wanted to look and the clothes would fit the way I wanted them to fit. This is the first time of my life where there's so many things. I'm tired, first of all. I do work out and that is not something I've ever compromised on. I work out every single day for the most part. The weekends, a little whatever, but it's not giving me the results that it used to give me because I know there's all these other things that I need to think
and
about.
You have to always remind yourself that it is an uphill battle, and with you it is, you just had babies.
Yeah.
And you're also in that perimenopausal phase.
Yes.
Which makes it double difficult.
Yes.
So you are not alone in this, and you have started supporting yourself.
I have.
And you're doing it. Also with me, when I had my kids, I was 30.
Yeah.
And it still took me 8 years, I would say, to really just feel good in my skin.
Yeah.
It was slow and steady, and not at all a quick fix. And I was nursing. I had a toddler and I was working.
Yeah,
so I just did it as much as I could when I could and with a lot of grace. So you are in your 40s, and so it's that much harder, and you have to always acknowledge that.
Yeah.
It's how you talk to yourself and remind yourself.
And I am trying, and it's been a challenge. This is like the worst I've felt in my body in a very long time. I would say probably like 16 years or longer, where I have never felt this bad in my own skin. And I'm okay. Like I'm definitely working through it and making sure I'm doing other things that I can control. Like I know that I can get a new hair dryer that's going to make my hair look nice. And I know that I can buy new shampoo, and I know that I can buy new skin products and things that do bring me more joy and are faster results just to start feeling better, right? And so those are the things that I can do, going out and just having to buy some new clothes and accepting that like there are certain things that just don't work for my body right now or ever again.
No, they don't work for you right now.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And the thing is that you're not just not doing anything about it. You're doing everything and more.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the third leg is about, actually.
Right.
The mental piece of it, because it's so easy for us to be like hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. And when that happens, a lot of women give up.
Yeah.
Because as it is, there's so much going on. A lot of people don't have, a home gym, or they don't have facilities that they can go to. And so it just becomes another excuse not to do anything, about it. Or there are people who are doing so much, the excess, like all of it together, and that becomes so overwhelming and it starts influencing your stress levels.
Yeah.
So, that third piece, which is about the stress management, it truly influences your cortisol, it influences all your hormones, your sleep, your energy levels, everything. And unfortunately, it's not like go for a walk every day, you're not going to feel stressed. It's not like that.
Right.
You really need to tap into what works for you.
Yeah.
And maybe it's going and getting a nice blow dry and going and, shopping for an hour.
Right.
For some people, it is movement. It's like just going out there and getting some fresh air, getting some sunlight, just a reset.
Right. And sometimes it's going out to dinner with your friends, having a glass of wine,
with your partner.
Yeah, doing any of those things. It's
and
true.
And again, there's the pressure that, sit in a meditation for an hour. Like, no, maybe not. Like, not everyone has that bandwidth right now. So just tapping into what is your stress management system. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
What are those things in your toolbox? Like what are the things that make you feel relaxed? I love planning vacations.
I do too.
I mean, it's so fun, right? It takes
you
somewhere else. You're so excited about it. It makes me feel relaxed.
Yeah.
So it could be anything. I actually genuinely love cooking. I like being in the kitchen. I like experimenting with, food. So whatever it is for you, tap into it. And you may not even know, you're in a situation and you're suddenly feeling so good.
Yeah.
Really tap into it and put that in your toolbox and do that more often.
Right.
Because that's where, you're going to be able to talk to yourself and be like, hey, you're good.
Yep.
You're working so hard on everything in your life, apart from being a full-time mom, and you have a job and all this other stuff, good for you. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And I think all of us needs to do that. I have to do that to myself all the time.
Yeah.
There are days when I'm just feeling, there's something going on. I have like 2 teenagers. I have an 11-year-old. I have a job. I'm actually getting married in a month. There's a lot of
so cool.
things going on.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to do that, right? And be like, it's just too much. It's to feel that sense of stress all the time.
Which only actually makes you feel more stressed is what I've learned. I'm like, even the idea of like just giving up and being like, all right, whatever, this is just my new, like I said earlier, my new way of living.
More stressful.
It's more stressful as I'm going through my day because it's all I'm thinking about. I'm like, I still, even though I've made this decision to just give up on it and to like give in to whatever, life I'm meant to live in my 40s and 50s, it's all I think about. And it's also this feeling of just like taking some type of control, right? And I think that's part of it. So with those 3 legs, those are all great. And I think that's absolutely something that I've learned today and just the basic things within that. But it's also this feeling of taking control. And I feel like through so much of this journey, once you start entering into like your later 30s and into your 40s, it can be so easy to feel like you're out of control. Because I'm like, I felt like I was doing the right things, right? I felt like I was like intentional about my protein. I wasn't necessarily like counting and all that stuff, which I need to start doing a little bit more of. I was working out every single day, going to therapy, but like nothing was actually giving me that feeling of control. I didn't feel like, okay, if I work out, I will lose weight, because that's not what was happening.
Right.
If I go to therapy, my brain will feel better, and that wasn't happening. And I have a great therapist and it does help, but it wasn't generally helping me feel like less stress or less mentally grounded. And so because of that, I just felt so out of control. And so for me, the easiest way at this point for me to feel like I could get some control was to try hormone therapy, because I'm like, that's, obviously with the doctor and all of that. It's just something that I knew I could try. And it hasn't obviously shown me any results yet, because it's only been not even quite 7 days. But it'll be interesting to see like how that works for me.
No, I think HRT, it has a very important place
Yeah.
in this entire
Yeah.
toolkit, right? That we
But it
were
can
talking
feel
about.
overwhelming, right? And the
It
same
can.
thing with like peptides and NADs and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Like
Yeah.
that's sort of those like outer level
Correct. Correct.
layers that I'm
Those are all
mentioning.
like bonus tools.
Yes. Yeah.
And those are all great. But I think that once you have that foundational
Yeah.
piece sorted out and you feel that that becomes doable, for your schedule, for your budget, for your lifestyle, it just fits in
Yeah.
like something that you would just do, like you brush your teeth,
Yeah.
right? Once that happens, then you can add on all these layers, and
Yeah.
they are important, and that we can talk about that another time. But HRT is a piece that I think people need to be aware of. Peptides are great; they have their own place. All of that, and there's
Yeah.
a lot,
Yeah. There's
out there.
There is a lot. And this is sort of like the first. So I had my first like layer of conversation with Dr. Jailani, and this is like my first layer of conversation with you. I hope to actually bring you both on again, maybe even together, where we get into the nitty gritties of like what is hormone therapy, and like with Dr.
Yes.
Jailani, and like what are the right moves, and like what are some of the risks, right? I'm a hypochondriac, and I've always been. And so taking the hormones has really impacted me mentally, because I'm like, okay, what if I'm going to get a blood clot? Like all of these things that I know are unlikely, especially given I was on IVF, right? So I was on much stronger estrogen for a longer period of time. So if I didn't, I know it's not the same thing, but I have data that shows me that my body can.
There's been so much data, though, unfortunately, the other way around. And when you go back and look at this research, it's all very, very, very small groups of people.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, a lot of it is on men. So, there's very limited research on women.
Yeah.
With hormones.
Right, because
they just didn't do that.
No.
It's always male specimens or abs.
Yeah.
So that I don't think that, is all accurate. But yeah, I feel like HRT has a very significant place in this whole perimenopausal and postmenopausal journey.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely something to consider and talk about and ask your physician.
Yep.
Definitely.
And the same with peptides, which is the other part of the conversation I would love to get into with you later. We don't have time right now, but because I feel like I have so many questions about that, and I haven't tapped into it yet. I haven't tried it.
I love peptides. I personally use them. I recommend them, and definitely a conversation we can have.
Yes, I would love to. So I'm so grateful for this being our first conversation, and we covered a lot of basics, but I think it was really important foundation for anyone who is listening to this to first break down the wall of shame. Like for so many like months, and I know that there's been years that people have been feeling this, but for months I was ashamed of like, not being able to change my body. I'm like, why is this not happening the way that I want it to happen? And accepting that I was in my 40s and that I finally reached that point where it's not going to just happen, and I'm going to have to make different choices, and how overwhelming that felt, and how embarrassed I was that I was even thinking about like trying estrogen, and like, why? Like, it's so weird now, right? So breaking down that wall of shame and just opening the door to this conversation, and giving so many basic tools that I think break it down in a way that make it more absorbable and like more or less daunting, I guess is the right word, and just really focusing on those 3 legs of a tripod and making sure that you're focusing on those 3 to start, and the rest of it is just like stuff that you can build in and tap into when you need it.
For women, I feel like do what you can when you can with what you have. Right? That's been like my mantra from the beginning of this whole journey. Because that whole space of overwhelm where we get stuck, it often it holds us back because we
analysis
let's just
paralysis.
not do it. Yeah. So do what you can when you can with what you have.
I love that.
Yeah.
That might be the title of
Thank
this
you.
episode.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to A Splash More. If you like this episode, make sure you like, comment, share, follow, subscribe, and let us know if there's any topics you want us to cover in the future. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.